Welcome to the Highline Herd podcast, where we dive deep into the world of horses and the people who love them. Join us for new episodes every Sunday as we explore everything from horse care, riding tips, and anything else equestrian related. To keep up with the herd, be sure to follow us on Instagram at the Highline Herd and visit our website at thehighlineherd.com. Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Highline Herd. I'm Skylar.
I'm Shelby, and today we're going to be talking about getting into horses. Now, this episode's going to be a lot of personal experience, word of mouth, because this isn't something you can Google. This isn't something you're going to figure out and hear, just on the internet. You're going to have to talk to people. You're going to have to talk to lesson barns, instructors, trainers, horse owners, to learn all of this. So our goal with this episode is if you want to get into horses, this is going to be where all your information comes from. Your realistic expectations, your costs, all of that.
Yeah. And also to give you points to think about if you are considering getting into horseback riding. Things that, are often overlooked, and it's something that shouldn't be, because it is important. It's very, very important to keep these things in mind.
There is more to horses than riding. Horses are not machines. They are not robots. They are no different than the dog that shares your bed or the cat that keeps you company in your office.
Or sometimes the toddlers that are crawling around on the floor.
Right. They're not machines. They're not robots. You cannot expect them to be. There is more to horses than riding. So, why don't we get into that? The commitment they take, the costs they take, the care they take.
It's a big commitment, and I don't think people realize how big of a commitment, because your horse is solely dependent on you. You are the one responsible for maintaining its care, making sure that it has everything that it needs, and also your equipment and everything else. But before we get into that, let's just focus on the main things, and that'll be money and time.
Yeah, I think definitely a good place to start, because the order you should get into horses is lessons, leases, and then purchasing.
Yeah.
So let's start with lessons. Let's talk about the time and commitment, time, money, and commitment that lessons alone can take. If you truly want to see progress, if you truly want to improve, what are you looking at in lessons?
Yeah. I know for me, I took weekly lessons because it was all that I could afford growing up. I would just go once a week for maybe about 2 hours. 1 hour would be for the prep work, the getting the horse groomed, cleaned, 30 minutes before, 30 minutes after, and then an hour of riding time. A lesson like that at the time in my area was about $45 to $50, depending on if I wanted a solo lesson or a group lesson with other peers who were in the same, kind of level as me. But it was something that I wish, looking back, that I would have set aside more time and more funds, if it had been possible, to take maybe 2 or 3 lessons a week. And a lot of times too, because I rode around at different barns, it wasn't just the same one, I could exchange my lessons for working. So cleaning stalls, taking care of feed in the morning or afternoon, filling water buckets, just doing chores around the farm in exchange for being able to ride or having a free quote-unquote lesson. And that was a big lifesaver for me, because it allowed me to get more riding time, but also experience on the actual care that it took to, run a facility and make sure all the horses were content and happy. And I think a lot of people have similar situations like that too.
Yeah, there's definitely lessons you can learn quite a bit in. Like you said, you can learn the care and everything, and you can exchange work for ride time, but sometimes that's not always an option. Either way, if you're looking at taking lessons, whether it's, 1 lesson a week like what Skylar did, or multiple lessons a week, or 1 every 2 weeks, expect that your time at the barn isn't going to be short, or your kids' time isn't going to be short.
No.
It's going to be, if the barn is, generous enough like Skylar's was to say, yeah, this horse can be, occupied for you for 2 hours, to groom, to ride, to untack, to groom. Because you said 30 minutes before your hour lesson, 30 minutes after. That's 2 hours that horse is spending with one human.
Yes.
So that's, like, on the barn's part, incredibly generous. Now, it isn't always that long, but do expect that you or your kid are going to be at the barn a while, because depending on what your lesson entailed, you could be spending extra time after your lesson if you have to hose them down and let them cool off.
Or even before, too.
Right.
Sometimes people don't realize that, like, if your horse comes in from the field and they're a muddy mess, like, you have to get all of that off before you put your tack and saddle on there. Because it can cause a bunch of issues. It can cause sores. It can rub,
Well, there's
skin.
also, I know that there's instructors who will not let you ride if you haven't properly groomed the horse.
Exactly.
They will send you right back out to that grooming station and tell you, nope, you gotta try again. Your horse isn't clean enough.
Yeah.
As they should. I mean, those lesson horses, they're worth quite a bit. I mean, it may not seem like it to some people, but those horses have the patience of a saint. They teach you so much.
Yeah.
So, take care of them. So, if you're looking at just lessons alone, you gotta look at costs. I mean, it could be anywhere from $45 to, $100.
Yeah.
I'm paying $80 a lesson right now every 2 weeks. And what I'm paying for is her experience, her time, her facilities. Like, my cost is going directly into her because of everything she's done to be able to teach me what I need to know.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what lessons do. That's what lesson horses do. You can't go into it thinking you're going to get better because you take one lesson a week or one lesson every 2 weeks.
Yeah. You might improve a little bit, but honestly, that's not enough amount to see a
It's
drastic
not.
change.
And if you want to show, if you want to be competitive, you got to put in the time. You got to put in the work.
Mm-hmm.
You don't send your kid to a track meet once a month and expect him to come home with a giant trophy at the end of the year.
Yeah.
If you're going to enroll your kid in sports through school, horseback riding is a sport just like all of that. It takes commitment just like all of that.
Mm-hmm.
So whether you're looking at lessons for yourself or your kid, understand the time, money, and commitment that comes with lessons alone.
Yeah. Well, and two, I know for me, taking lessons once a week was fine because I was not competing. I have never competed. I've not had any interest to compete. So for me, it was just being able to go out there and ride, and that's what I got out of it. But like you just said, if there's going to be the case where you are wanting to compete, you're wanting to be competitive and go to shows and, do your best, that one time a week probably isn't for you. You're going to need more training and more saddle time than that.
And it's not just, saddle time. Like I said at the beginning of this episode, there's more to horses than sitting on their back.
Yeah.
If you want to compete, if you want to show, but you don't own your own horse, you have to be willing to be an athlete as well in your own right. You have to be willing to do the body work outside of your outside of your weekly lessons to improve your own core strength and muscle strength and flexibility and balance. You have to be willing in your lessons to fully apply yourself every single time if all you're going to do is one lesson a week and still try to compete. Most people I know who compete, they take lessons every day. And if they're not taking lessons every day, they're riding every day.
Yeah.
So lessons are expensive. It can be anywhere from $45, which is honestly really low. I don't know if anybody charges that in our area still.
Yeah.
To $100 per lesson. It's not cheap, but it gives you a good idea of, getting into horses, just how much they will cost you.
And it also depends on the trainer too. Your location is important, yes, but your trainer, their experience, that will usually dictate the price. The more experience they have and the better teacher they are, usually the more higher price they are as well.
Yeah, I pay my current instructor $80 an hour, but she is a working woman. All of her horses are true cattle horses. She opens gates off of them. She ropes. She brands. She does all of this stuff off of her horses. She is not, setting people up to be pretty. She's setting people up to work. So you're paying for her experience, not just as a horsewoman, but as a cattle woman, as a working woman. So I'm paying for her experience to help me build a well-rounded horse and to make myself a well-rounded rider. that can handle any situation. And if, say we wanted to go out and work cows, we would be able to do so effectively, efficiently, and safely. If you're taking lessons, you're learning to be safe.
Yeah. The safety is one of the biggest factors that go into horses because ultimately they are dangerous. They are 1,000-pound animals, sometimes more, sometimes less, but they are more powerful than you. And they can spook. There's a million things that can go wrong, strange accidents that no one can explain. Like, anything can happen.
Right. At the end of the day, they're animals, and they're prey animals at that.
Mm-hmm.
So they are, designed to live off their instincts and to flight and to flee. And, if you don't understand that, it can be intimidating. It can scare you when you're like, oh, why'd my horse react at that? Like, it's just a bag. Well, depending on what he was focusing on, Valor's a huge proponent of this. If they're off in La La Land, that bag may have come out of nowhere.
Yeah.
It's scary.
It's just like with us. If you're so focused in on something or not paying attention to what's going on around you and someone comes around a corner wrong and you freak out, like, it's just like that for them, except they're a lot bigger.
Yeah, so, you're looking at lessons and you're like, oh, why am I paying this price? Well, when you're going into lessons, and I'm a huge proponent of taking lessons regardless of where you are at in your horsemanship journey, because, I own my own horses. I've been around horses a good chunk of my life. I'm still taking lessons because I'm still trying to improve.
You will always learn new things.
Right. So when you're looking at lessons and you're looking at the costs and you're looking at the time, remember what you get out of it. You get so much out of it, even if you're just going as a hobby, even if you're not competing. The fulfillment you can get out of it, the joy, the feeling of accomplishment that you can get out of that is incredible.
Well, let's take a break and just go into all of the positives, because a lot of this will seem like we're going to be talking about like the negatives or things that might discourage folks, but that's not all that goes into it. There's so much more.
Getting into horses, regardless of what your goals are, if you just want a pretty pasture ornament or if you want to try and be high level, regardless of what you're doing getting into horses, it is one of the best experiences, in my opinion, that you could have. Because they are animals. They are flight animals. They are prey animals. They are not predators. They will not think like predators. However, as my experience with horses continues, I will stand by. They are one of the few animals in their sensitivities and their complexity of thought that comes close to humans.
Yeah.
They're very, very sensitive and in tune with us. They're very complex thinkers. They're complex problem solvers, or problem creators in some cases. So everything with them is so rewarding. It can teach you so much about yourself, about the world around you. It can help you learn how to tune back in, because I know in this world, all the technology around you, it's hard to tune out. It's hard to tune into yourself.
That's why I enjoy working with horses so much, is that aspect of they make you slow things down and really stay present in the moment with them. Horses are one of the few animals that will be completely honest with you if you listen and if you pay attention. They are so honest with their behavior and their thought patterns and just their personalities too. They don't lie. They don't, trick you. Well, sometimes. But they really don't, ultimately. And you don't get that type of connection, most of the times with other animals. And I think that's what sets horses apart.
Really, it does, yeah. Just their ability to connect and is just, yeah. And then, reminding you to slow down, to stay present, because I've met quite a few horses where if you try to rush it, they don't tolerate it. They do not tolerate being rushed or pushed or put on any timetable other than their own. And those are some of the best teachers.
Oh yeah. Your horse will tell you what is too much and what is too little, and when to apply yourself more, and they'll really force you out of your bubble too.
They really will. So that's the other thing about lessons is, and I'm speaking from personal experience on this, I was one of those shy kids. I never had friends. I never went out and did stuff. I never tried to connect with people. because people were too much. But going to my lessons every week, every 2 weeks, that was how I got out of the house. That's how I built my confidence. That's how, I got better with social interactions, got better with talking to people, was through horses.
Oh yeah, I'm in the exact same boat, and I guarantee if there are any equestrians who are in similar situations, that you can agree that, like, yeah, going out to the barn sometimes was the highlight of your week.
Right. Sometimes the highlight of your day, your hour, you're like, oh, I just get to go to the barn and breathe in that horsey smell and just, brush them and just spend time with them. And I think that is a very important and underrated aspect of horses, is just the time you spend in the cross ties with them. Just breathing, hanging out.
It's a form of therapy.
It really is.
That's why there are therapy programs that are so successful, because horses are some of the best therapists, because they will sit and they will listen, as long as you keep them occupied, most of the time. But they will sit and they will listen with you.
I mean, they're just like people. Some are better at the standing and checking in than others. Some horses, like, they have a very work-oriented attitude. They're like, all right, enough of this brushing nonsense. Just put a saddle on me. Let's go to work. Like, some horses are very job-oriented. Willie is very much like that.
Yeah.
He's not a huge fan of standing there and being coddled and cuddled and primped and pampered.
He definitely wants to get to work, and he wants to prove himself to you. Sundown, on the other hand, I'm noticing that he just likes to sit and cuddle and likes to be brushed and
You
pet.
got a Valor.
Yeah.
My style of horse is always the puppy dog personality. They want to be with you, whether you are out, trail riding, working, or just hanging out in the cross ties. They're down for it. They're down for any of it. That's my style of horse.
Yeah. I like one that will get down and get to business, and that is most definitely Willie.
But that's, you choose a barn, you choose a horse that works for you in that aspect. When you're looking at, gathering lessons for your kids or yourself, when you're looking at getting into horses, you gotta be particular about what barn you choose, about the horses they have, because, if you're an adult and you want to get into horses just for the hobby and enjoyment of it, you probably don't want that high pressure reining barn or that super uppity dressage barn. You probably want to find some down home, like, small time barn where people are truly just hopping on, hopping off, hopping on, hopping off, running around, petting on them, whatever. They're just there to have fun.
Yeah. And a good trainer will pair a good, like, horse with the rider, depending on what they need.
Mm-hmm.
And that's something that we can also go into on future episodes of how do you pair horse and rider, because that is a big thing too.
That is a hot topic right now. Yeah. So, when you're looking at lessons for yourself, for your kid, for your husband, for your wife, take into consideration the barn you choose. Take into consideration the trainer/instructor that you use, because again, a good trainer, a good instructor can make or break your experience with horses.
Exactly.
And I am speaking from personal experience on that one. My last year has been getting away from a toxic trainer and realizing Valor is the horse he is, and he has the skills he has because of me. So finding my own environment to foster that was crucial.
Mm-hmm.
I know you don't have a ton of experience with barns. You've taken lessons with Amy, but that was it.
No, I've taken quite a few lessons at different places. I think there's been around 6 or 7 different barns that I've moved around to.
Yeah, so...
but yeah, the biggest thing is do your due diligence with the trainer that you're going to, or if you're considering a trainer.
Right.
Make sure you look them up. See what's out there about them. It doesn't hurt. It can help you in the long run too.
And don't be afraid to speak up. If they're not, I know everybody has a different communication style. Some people prefer more direct commentary, criticisms, positives, and some people like a little bit more of a beat around the bush style. So make sure you find a trainer that's flexible and is willing to work with you on that.
Mm-hmm. I mean, at the end of the day, too, we're all human.
We are.
Yeah.
You gotta stand up for yourself. You gotta be able to say, hey, I don't like the way you're teaching me, or hey, I want my lesson to just be this today. You gotta be comfortable saying that, too, because if you can't, even if you're just doing it for a hobby, if you can't apply yourself in a lesson, The horse isn't going to have a great time either. You're not going to have a great time. Everybody's going to be miserable.
It's okay to take the reins sometimes.
It
so to
really
say.
is. Yeah. It's okay to take control. So that's lessons. So let's say, you get through lessons, you've had all the benefits, you've seen the things, and you're like, okay, I'm ready to take the next step. So after lessons comes leases.
Yes. Now, there's a bunch of different types of leases and contracts that you can write up between the horse's owner and yourself. But some of the main ones are just like monthly leases that I've seen in on-site or off-site.
So the biggest thing when you're getting into a lease, like Skylar said, there's a bunch of different styles. Everybody's going to do what works for them. Biggest thing, if you are going to lease a horse from somebody, make sure that there is a contract in place.
Yes.
Do not do a quid pro quo friendly word of mouth lease.
No verbal agreements will hold as a contract in any place of court.
No. If something were to happen and somebody tries to sue somebody, make somebody accountable, pay, whatever, have a contract in place. Make sure you read through that contract and you understand when you're liable and when you're not liable and what you're liable for.
Yes.
So my lease contract, if someone were to come in and lease my horses, says that for the time you are here, from the time your vehicle, you get out of your vehicle to the time you get back in your vehicle to leave, you are liable for any damage to equipment, whether that's tack, ground poles, whatever. You're liable for damage to that equipment if you use it, and you are liable for anything that happens to the horse you're leasing. So say you bring the horse out of the stall and he bumps into the wall and scrapes himself, you are responsible for that scrape. If you're riding him and he sprains something, you are responsible for that. And what that can mean, now this is again depending on the barn, depending on the contract, that liability, what that can mean is that you have to front the costs if there are vet bills involved. If there are extra farrier costs involved, you have to foot those bills. But let's say something happens after you leave. Let's say something happens on a day you're not even out there and the barn owner or the manager or the horse owner tries to hold you liable. That contract will also protect you.
Yes. And that's the biggest thing. You want to protect yourself, and the barn owner, whoever the horse's owner is, wants to protect themselves as well. That's the biggest part about a contract, and it is a lifesaver if something were to happen.
It's think of it as a shield. It's a shield for you and or the owner.
Yeah.
It's not there to manipulate. It's not there to make things more complicated. It's a shield to make sure that if anything happens, everybody is protected.
It's just a business contract.
It really is. Yeah. I mean, you wouldn't go into, a trade agreement, between two companies. You wouldn't expect them to go into a trade agreement without, a 70-page contract that covers both companies and the result of something happening.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, if you're an investor, you're not going to invest without, understanding all the risks that go into it. Leasing a horse is no different.
Yeah. And also, too, something to keep in mind, and I feel like a lot of people don't realize this, just because you are leasing a horse does not mean that the horse belongs to you in its entirety.
No, a lease is very much, again, depending on your contract, some leases are 1 day a week, some are 3 days a week, some are 2 rides a month. So it all depends on what you have set up and what the contract is in place. Mm-hmm. But that horse is not yours. Yes, you are sharing responsibilities, but at the end of the day, there are certain decisions made with that horse that you have no ground in. Because at the end of the day, you're not footing their costs. You're not footing 100% of their costs. So if the owner says, you can't cut their mane or tail, you can't. And under no circumstances is it okay for you to do so.
Yes. It's a respect thing. Respect the horse's owner, and they will most likely respect you as well as a leaser.
Right. You wouldn't, you wouldn't take your friend's kid and your friend tell you, hey, don't give them any sugar, they have a bad reaction. Or, hey, please don't let them, nap or whatever, because, when I get them back, I want to make sure they sleep through the night. Especially younger kids. I mean, their sleep schedules are pretty fragile. So, let's say you say, oh, yeah, cool, friend, I won't let your kid do XYZ. And then you take their kid does XYZ, and you hand them back, and, you know, either you're honest about it or you lie about it, which is worse. Your friend has every right to feel disrespected.
Mm-hmm.
And you wouldn't say, you know, they're in the wrong, would you? It's no different to leasing a horse.
And I've seen people pull their lease contracts and cancel it or void it after somebody does something that was in the agreement not to do.
I know my lease agreement, it's 2 strikes. And depending on what it is you broke, what rule, what agreement you broke, it may be like, first strike, you're done. I have one of my horses, I have the rule, she is not to be jumped under any circumstances right now. And if someone were to jump her, it wouldn't be a, oh, here's your one warning. It would be, nope, you're done.
Mm-hmm.
Because
as it should be.
Right. Reality is, if somebody's not going to listen to such a small ask, how do you know they're going to respect you on the big asks? So, you know, leases they're awesome. They're just like lessons. They really can help you get in there and get the experience of owning a horse without the complete responsibilities of it. Because, you know, you're leasing the horse. So the hard decisions, you know, whether or not to euthanize, whether or not to go through with surgery, you don't have to make those calls. Because that's on the owner. But leasing can give you a good idea into all of that.
Well, and that's another aspect of horse ownership that a lot of people don't come to terms with. You are going to be responsible, if you do own a horse eventually, you're going to be responsible for that horse and their health and making the hard decisions.
And leasing can give you a window into all of that and tell you if you can handle that or not, because there's no shame if you can't. So leasing is your window into all those hard decisions.
Mm-hmm.
Leasing is your window into all the pros and cons of horse ownership. It's, you know, shows you just how much time, money, and commitment actually goes into it, because you're usually pretty close with the owner. You guys should be talking pretty regularly. You should see each other pretty often.
Yeah.
And it gives you a nice window. And, you know, that tells you if you're equipped or not to handle it, because horses is hard decisions. When Valor colicked and I had to haul him up to OSU, I had to make the decision. When is too much? When do we euthanize? When do we keep fighting? Because for his own comfort, for his own health, there is a limit.
Yeah.
I'm not going to sit there and let a horse colic for 4 days because I think they can pull through.
Yeah.
I'm not going to put a horse through colic surgery because they might get better.
Mm-hmm. Well, and a similar situation happened with me and Willie, which I'm sure any horse owner who is listening can kind of relate. Willie, he got into an accident. I have no idea how. We scoured the field, could not find anything. But he almost severed his front tendon in one of his front legs. And he was 3-legged lame. Like, it was not looking good. He kept ripping the stitches. It kept getting infected. It just wasn't healing properly. And I had to face that question of, do I put him down to help him? And then miraculously, he had this surge of good days, and things started looking really good, and he healed completely.
Yeah, but leasing gives you a window into all of that, because not everybody's equipped for it. And there's no shame in that. There's no shame whatsoever, because it's hard to make those decisions. It really is. And I think I speak for majority of horse owners when I say making those decisions sometimes feels like you're ripping your own heart out.
Oh, yes.
Even if you know it can go for the better, there's still pain.
Yeah.
So, you know, lessons give you a great window into, you know, the pros and cons of horses without the weight.
Uh-huh.
But leases help you get a window into the weight of horse ownership. Because it is very, very hard mentally, emotionally, physically to be an equestrian, to be into horses. Whether you are owning pasture puffs or Grand Prix dressage horses, horse ownership is hard. Leasing gives you a window into it. All those costs you put into leasing, you know, you can pay anywhere from $200 a month to $1,000 a month to lease a horse.
Yeah. It all depends on your area too.
Yeah, we're speaking from our area, what horses are, and we don't live in a horse area.
No.
So some of you guys might be saying it's high. We live in southwestern Ohio.
Yep.
there's not a lot of horse around here.
No.
If we want horse stuff, we go way up north or we go to Kentucky. So costs might be a little higher in our area. Some of you guys might be like, oh, that's really high. Well, when you're paying $200 a month, you're going to get, you know, a basic little beginner pony. He's probably not going to know all that much, or you have a very generous friend. But if you're paying $1,000 a month for a lease, it's probably a show lease, and you're probably getting a whole lot out of it.
Yeah.
But, you know, if you're looking at cost of leasing $200 a month or $1,000 a month, and you're going, oh, that's way too high, probably not ready to buy one.
Yes. The buying is a whole different level, and we could probably do an episode just on that, but we're not going to yet.
No, this episode is really just about helping you guys understand the costs and the whys. Why should you take lessons? Okay, why should I lease? Why should I own? Well, here's everything that goes into all of that. Lessons and leases give you windows. The window gets bigger as you go. Lessons, it's a small window. It's like a little porthole. Leases give you a big old bay window into it, and then horse ownership is opening the door and diving in.
Yep.
So, you know, it's expensive, but it is so worth it. It is hard. It is miserable some days, but it is. I wouldn't change it.
No, I would not change anything either.
Yeah. I love the fulfillment, the bond, you know, like I don't feel a sense of accomplishment in a lot in my life, but with horses, you know, you really do.
And you can be proud about that too, because it takes a lot.
It's, yeah, like I said, it's kind of easier sometimes to be prouder of the horses and what we do with them than what we do with ourselves.
Yeah, and the non-horse people look at you like you're crazy when you're gushing about it. But yeah, it's fine.
It's good though. Lesson horses are invaluable. Lessons are invaluable, and you should take them throughout your entire, you know, horsemanship journey. Leases, absolutely. If you want to buy a horse, if you're even thinking about buying a horse, lease a horse. If you want to be competitive but you don't want to own, leasing's the way to do that.
And there also is another type of leasing that's very popular, is lease to own.
Oh, that's actually, yeah, let's go into that one, because
yeah,
that one's actually gaining some ground nowadays too.
Yes. No, I hear about it more and more and more. But what that is essentially you're leasing a horse, and depending on your contract, it'll eventually turn into you purchasing the horse. Sometimes how people have it set up is so that every lease payment you put in place is actually taking out of the full payment. So over time, you're kind of like paying off your horse each month. Sometimes people will do it where it's just you lease the horse, and then at the end of the leasing period, you can decide to purchase the horse, and you have to front that cost, and then you own that horse. But it's a good way to know if that horse is right for you.
That's, I think, the biggest thing is too many people dive into it. The first horse they look at, the second horse they look at, they buy it because they want a horse so bad. No. You can't buy the first horse you saw. I think I looked at 10, 20 horses before I bought Valor.
Yeah.
Like, and honestly, I'm glad I did, because there was one horse I looked at that, because of his buttons, because of his knowledge, I was like, I thought I should get him. It wasn't that we clicked. It wasn't that there was a connection. It was purely because I thought he covered enough bases that I was going to settle. But luckily I was talked out of it, and I didn't. And I wound up with a much better horse for it.
Yeah. Well, I know too, like when I was looking at getting a horse, and before I found Willie, I found Willie's ad and I really liked how he looked. But I also knew a couple of friends who were trying to sell a couple of horses. So I went and looked at them first, and then when I saw Willie and rode Willie, I realized that he was the horse for me. So it is good to see other options out there, because every horse is different. Every horse and rider pairing is different.
And that's definitely where leases and lessons come into play, because yes, every horse is different. But just like people, they have personality types.
Yes.
They have some generalities that are going to carry. And lessons and leases can help you figure those out. So when you go into buying, you know what personality you want to avoid and what personality you really want to mess with. Because I know now, I'm like, I don't want a working mindset horse. I want I want a drinking a beer horse. I want a beer drinking horse. I want a horse that's down for just about anything.
Hey, Willie can be a beer drinking horse if you know how to ride it.
if you can get through the trot, yeah.
And you'll just splash a little bit everywhere.
I was
It's fine.
Yeah, you know, you definitely wouldn't pass the hold a cup of tea test on him, but it's fine.
I don't know. I think I could.
You think? I don't. I've seen your videos, man. I don't know. I got me and Valor's video smooth as glass, and then we've got you.
Yeah, I'm a little bouncy on my video.
Just a little bit. But you know, that's lesson horses and lease horses, man. They're windows, and they are invaluable to helping figure out what you want to be as a horse person.
Oh yeah, I remember all the horses that I took lessons on. Every single one of them. So
how could you not? I mean, there's something to learn from every one of them. And I understand, you know, it's natural. You're not going to like some horses as much as others, but instead of dreading a lesson with that horse, try to look at what they teach you.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I rode one pony, and I did not like her. She did not like me. It was not a great combination. But what I learned from her was softness. Because if you didn't ride soft, you were coming off.
Yeah.
And she was very, very clear about that one.
Well, let's take a break, because we haven't talked about this enough. Falling off.
It's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when.
Yeah. You will fall off. You will watch people fall off. It is a occurrence that happens to every single equestrian.
And sometimes the horse, quote unquote, plans it. And sometimes it's just a freak thing. The horse moves in such a way, you stay one place, the horse goes another, and you're off. Like, sometimes it's unintentional, sometimes it is intentional, sometimes it's rider error, sometimes it's not, sometimes it's just bad luck. I came off one, it was just plain funny. There was nothing else about it. It was just plain funny. Skylar and I were riding bareback in an arena on one of our trips, and Valor got off balance. I got off balance. He did something goofy. I don't know if he was trying to help me, if he was trying to regain his own balance. I'm not really sure. But I kind of just slid off of him and landed in front of him. And he's a good boy. He stopped and backed up. Like, you're not supposed to be there. But, you know, Skylar was laughing at me because she's like, how did you do that? I have no idea.
Yeah, it was, I think, one of the most graceful dismounts that was not planned.
Right?
Yeah, that I have seen to date. And I've had plenty of falls myself.
Oh, you're going to. You cannot get into horses. There are some things, like, I wish people would understand. There are some things with horses, you can't avoid it. You might get 10 years without it, but you're gonna deal with it.
Yeah.
Colic, choke, falling off, all of it. You know, injuries, whether it's to yourself or your horse. It's not a matter of if, it's when.
Yep.
I've come off Valor because he's jumped a log and I got launched. And, you know, Skylar's come off because she decided to try something and it didn't work out.
Try riding my little pony bareback, and she decided she was going to get frisky and buddy sour and run back to the barn, and I got dragged on pavement. That wasn't fun. But after that, I got right back on. And that's a big thing. I know a lot of people, you'll hear them say, if you fall off, get back on the horse.
And it's true.
It is.
I think, you know, sometimes you have to look at the situation, and sometimes it's, okay, just sit on the horse. Like, let him walk a few steps, and then you can get off and end it. But you have to get back on.
Don't ever end things on a bad note.
Never, ever. It doesn't matter what you're doing. If it's a ground session, if it's grooming, if it's riding, if it's a hardcore training ride, never, ever end on a bad note if you can avoid it.
Yeah.
I know sometimes it is unavoidable. Sometimes you come off and, you know, you come off in such a way you're like, oh, I need to go to the doctor. So you get your horse squared away and then you go. But if you can, get back on.
Get back on.
Get back on.
Yep.
And, you know, that's part of horse ownership, is learning how to fall down and get up, and metaphorically and literally and figuratively.
Well, and something, too, that will help is safety equipment. Because we haven't touched base about that either.
No, I mean, this is definitely going to be a longer episode because there's a lot to touch on.
There is. Safety equipment is very important, especially in the early days when you are learning how to ride, but even it follows through when you are an experienced rider because, again, accidents can happen, strange things can happen. It's always better to be safe than sorry.
It really, really is. And I mean, it's just about care for yourself and your horse. A well-fitting saddle is going to do you more good than anything. Yeah, I know your bank account might complain, but it's going to do you more good because a well-fitting saddle stays on the horse. Yep. Good equipment stays on the horse. And if you don't have a helmet, you risk head injuries. If you don't have a good helmet and a good fitting helmet, you risk more severe injuries. But I will say, helmets are important. Yes, absolutely. My experience with majority of falls and what I've heard, your noggin's not in as much danger as your back, your spine.
Yes. And your hips. Your hips and your legs, too.
Don't even get me started on the hip thing.
Yeah.
Valor gave me a good bronc episode one day, and my hips after that one, not fun.
Yeah, but it's just something to keep in mind, and there are braces specifically made for riding. And there's like these self-inflatable ones too, where it detects if you fall. Yeah.
I will say, if you know you do a lot of extreme riding, cross country, eventing, even just jumping in an arena, I will say one piece of safety equipment that I'm seeing more and more of, wear a body suit, either the inflatable vests that blow up when you come off, or just it looks like body armor. It almost looks like a Kevlar vest, but it protects you when you come off. I'd say protecting your body is probably more than your head.
Yeah.
Because majority of injuries I've seen is broken necks, broken backs, ribs. That's majority of the injuries.
Yep.
And it's not a matter of if, it's when, and it's just about being prepared for it mentally and physically. But, lessons, leases, it's horses. It does not matter how saintly the horse you're riding is. It doesn't matter what unicorn of a trainer you have. You're going to fall off. The horse is going to have a day. They're going to spook at something. They're going to trip, stumble. I've come off because a horse tripped. He went over a ground hole and didn't decide to fully pick up, and I was still learning how to post, and he tripped, went on his knees, and I went over his head. No harm on anybody's part, but that's just an example of the freak things that happen.
Everything can happen, and anything can happen. Yep.
So that's all of that, but be prepared for the cost, because none of this is cheap.
If this is something that you want to get into, or you want to get into more, you got to put in the effort and the time for it.
You really do, because let's look at board costs. Anywhere from $300 a month to $1,200 a month. That's our area. There are some areas I know it gets up to more than that.
Oh, yes.
And if you're paying for a trainer, $1,200 is your low end a month to have a trainer work with your horse. And
sometimes too, that month isn't enough.
No, if you think your horse is going to meet all these goals in 30 days, you're in for a rude awakening. Because like we said at the beginning of this episode, they're not robots. They're not machines. They're living, breathing beings that have their own timetable of how they're going to accomplish things. Because if you want a safe horse, you can't rush it.
No, you gotta take it at their pace. And a lot of good trainers will be honest with you up front when it comes to that.
And, if you set aside a budget for training, understand sometimes horses will throw a spoke in that wheel, and you gotta readjust your budget. It's a lot like renovating a house. When you renovate a house, you have to set aside an emergency fund because you might find asbestos you have to treat or termite damage.
Yeah.
If you're training horses, let's say it's a 10-year-old and you just want to put a little extra buttons on him. You may think he's finished, but you send him to a trainer and the trainer's like, no, this guy's got a big hole in his foundation. That's extra time and money. Are you prepared for that?
Set aside those funds just in case.
Yep. And just because you have a baby and you send it to a trainer doesn't mean in 90 days it'll learn everything. I've met some dumb babies where they get to the 90-day mark and they still have no idea how to do stuff. And it's not from lack of work on the trainer's part. It's just truly some horses are a little special.
They're a little slow when it comes to learning. Just like people.
They are, and that's why you can't rush it, and you can't, try to hold them to your timetable. It's not going to work.
No.
But that's the cost of it. I mean, and then you look at farrier costs, $65 to $350 every 4 to 8 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
I don't even want to look at what track horses cost.
Oh, goodness. Yeah. Or vet bills, too. Both yearly vet bills for, like, their yearly checkups.
It's about $800 for me to get mine done.
I think it's about $7 for mine, and I just have 2 guys.
Yeah. So, yeah, mine costs more because I always have something extra Heather needs to do when she's out. That's our vet. So, you can't go into this thinking you're going to save money. You can't go into this thinking you can skimp and still get where you want to be and achieve what you want to achieve.
Yeah.
When you're paying the costs, when you look at the cost of the lessons, remember what it costs to feed these guys. Remember what it took that trainer to learn all that they know. When you're looking at lease costs, remember all the training that goes into that horse, all of the time and money that horse is occupying. None of this is cheap, but it is so worth it. And the sense of fulfillment and achievement you can get out of these guys is...
Yep. The reward is great when it comes to this.
It's so... If you want to teach your kids, responsibility and accountability, they're not going to learn it through baseball. Sorry. They're not. So I know this was a longer episode and it might have seemed like we jumped around, but it all boils down to this. Start with lessons, get a lease, and purchasing should be the last ever thing you do. And it doesn't matter where you're at in your journey. Never stop learning. Never stop trying to find people to learn from. Never stop trying to improve, because I know a lot of us are operating on tight budgets. There are some things you can't skimp on.
Yep.
As much as we would like to, unfortunately, sometimes we have to cut other things.
Yep.
So don't go into horses, don't go into this episode thinking it's all bad, it's all expensive, it's all this, it's all that. We are just trying to be transparent because we know a lot of horse people, it's hard to find information on it, and I don't think a lot of horse people are trying to gatekeep it, but I know sometimes it feels that way. But reality is, a lot of owners get into horses. They buy without doing lessons. They buy without doing leases. And they think they know what they're getting into, and they really don't. So, majority of horse owners in 1 to 5 years will wind up selling and getting out of horses.
Yeah. So educate yourself. Keep up to date with, the prices of everything in your area or in any future areas that you want to go into.
And remember, inflation is real, but in the horse world, it's even more so.
Yes.
Because unfortunately, it is agriculture, and agriculture is always the first one to get bit when things happen. So, in this episode, I know it wasn't super streamlined, but lessons, lease, purchase, and don't ever think you know everything. I don't care if you've been in horses for 40 years. I don't care if you've lived with them since before you came out of the womb. You don't know everything about horses.
And you will always learn more.
You will always learn more. The moment you think you know everything is the moment you
failed.
Yeah. I really was trying to find a nice way to phrase it,
No.
but that's how it is.
You have failed. If you close yourself off to learning new things and experiencing new things, ultimately you're keeping yourself.
You're closing yourself off.
Yeah.
And that's another reason I think a lot of people are scared to get into horses, because there's a lot of people that aren't kind about the information. And that's all we want to do, is provide information you can understand and you don't feel judged for. Because if you can't ask questions, how are you going to learn? So, take lessons, appreciate your lesson horses, appreciate your instructors, appreciate the trainers who put the time in to make those lesson horses such patient saints. Appreciate the time all of those lease horses had put into them to make them leasable, to make them safe to lease, to make them so they can help you reach your goals.
Mm-hmm.
And when you buy your own horse, eventually, if you decide to go that route, you'll understand why, I say lessons, lease, purchase. And reality is, a lot of people probably shouldn't purchase.
Yeah.
Horses are not a fad.
No. They take years of dedication, years of money, years of commitment.
If you're not passionate, you're not going to get very far. You're not going to enjoy it very much. I know this episode's kind of been a whirlwind of emotions, you know, talking about the goods, the bads, the uglies, the funnies. But horses is, while it's the most difficult thing I've ever done, it's also been the most rewarding.
Yes.
I feel the most myself when I'm with the horses.
Oh, 100%. And that's what makes it all worth it.
And it really, like, I know we kind of glanced over it, but the doors it has opened for me, you know, people I've met coming out of my own shell, I wouldn't change one bit of my horsemanship journey.
Entirely. Yep.
So that would be this episode. We'll go ahead and end it there. I know it's longer, but so here's your summary. Lessons, lease, purchase. Always appreciate your lesson horses, your lease horses, your trainers, your instructors. Don't run your mouth. They will hear about it. And just enjoy it. Enjoy the ride.
Yep.
Take the reins and enjoy the ride.
All right. We'll see you next episode. We hope you enjoyed this week's topic. Join us for new episodes every Sunday. And to keep up with the herd, be sure to follow us on Instagram at The Highline Herd and visit our website at thehighlineherd.com. We hope you enjoy the show. See you next week.